And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about the multi-end spooling process, which is just the act of spooling multiple wires onto a single, usually a braider bobbin. So Fort Wayne Metals is capable of running up to 9 ends or wires on a spool. With our Steger style braider bobbins, which we'll go over the spool types here in a little bit. Usually we run about 1,000 to 3,000ths in diameter. And then from 3,000ths to 8,000ths, that would typically go on a Wardwell or a New England style braider bobbin. But if there's anything outside of those ranges that you guys would like to try, just ask. We're always willing to look into other things. And in general, any alloy can be spooled with multiple ends, although typically it's going to be your 300 series stainless alloys and similar. And it's also typically done with round wire, but it can be investigated with other configurations like a strand or cable or a flat wire. Some difficulties or considerations to think about whenever you're first setting multi-end products up. The main one is braiding tension. It's best practice to spool the material with slightly more tension than you're actually braiding it with, which eliminates material digging into other layers, which can contribute to breakages during braiding. So whenever you guys are setting up your parts initially, going onto a braider, let us know your braiding tension or your spring combination so we can calculate the theoretical braiding tension so we can have our best chance for success from the start. And then also handling is a big consideration when ordering multi-end material. Generally, the complexity and the difficulty to handle goes up with the more wires you put on a bobbin, as well as whenever you increase the size along with that. So if tension is lost via handling or a break in the braider, this can cause some serious difficulties when trying to braid. So sometimes whenever there's a break in the braider, the bobbins can be attempted to save. So if you're attempting to save the bobbin, we need to make sure that the wire is actually in wrap. And by that just means that all the wires are the exact same length on the braider bobbin. So if you take one loop off of a singular wire and then the others have those loops still on there, the length is effectively different. That will cause crossovers and breakages ultimately in the braider. And then if that's ever a concern or you guys would like to learn how to do that, let Fort Wayne Metals know and we can try to get a demonstration on how to properly check the spools in wrap or just untangle a spool in general. To go into the spool choice considerations, we have 3 different types of Steger braider bobbins, and that's the ones we'll focus on. So we have the Enduro bobbin, the medium hub bobbin, and the large hub bobbin. This fits the KL80 carrier style. So the Enduro bobbin, that is ultimately the most forgiving bobbin when it comes to unspooling wire in most situations. However, this can cause difficulties for larger wires and multiple ends, and we generally don't recommend going over 3 ends, and we kind of stop at the 003 multi-end part for the Enduro bobbin. So if there's ever any question on what bobbin type should be used, just ask Fort Wayne Metals. We'll give you some recommendations. The medium hub bobbin, that one can hold the most footage for the most uptime on your braiders. However, the trade-off is that the spool is not as as sound with the strength. And then the large hub bobbin, that can hold the least amount of footage, but they're the most robust and repeatable when it comes to spool integrity. And we're always recommending that we use the smallest amount of footage possible while we're still keeping the braider efficient enough. This helps reduce the material risk if the bobbin does break, and then also helps us to reduce the amount of spooling issues. And then the final difficulty or consideration that comes with multiple ends to think about is that material with multiple ends will have catenary sag, or otherwise known as droop between wires. This will show itself as just 1 or 2 wires drooping slightly more than the other wires in the bunch whenever you put slight tension on it. This is mostly present due to spooling complexity and difficulties, but this actually can be affected with braiding tension in the form of reducing or adding to it. So if you ever see issues with catenary sag, upping braiding tension can help, but that also comes with trade-offs as well. Just something to look at. As usual, additional ends and larger sizes of wire will add into this complexity with catenary sag. So the more collaboration we have at the start with you guys to set up the part with the correct tension and the correct bobbin will allow us to really set you guys up for success. And then also the feedback coming after you guys try your initial braids also helps greatly with success.